Hi, I'm Tim Bradford with Alaska Legislative Office and Public Capital News. And welcome today to Deantha Skibinski, the Executive Director of the Alaska Miners Association.
Thanks, Tim. It's so nice to be on with you again.
Deantha, the Miners Association, as I recall, is one of the oldest trade associations in the state. And maybe you could just tell us a little history, when it was formed, and essentially what you do, what MA does.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been around since 1939. A couple of years ago, we celebrated our 80th birthday. And in 1939, there was obviously miscellaneous gold rushes and things happening across the state. And even back at that time, the mentality, not too much different than today. The miners knew that there was a great need of coordination and idea sharing and banding together to work on the issues that were impacting them when they had miners working the beaches in Nome and down in the Klondike. And so they banded together to form the Alaska Miners Association, and we're 82 this year.
Yeah, how many members do you have?
We have about 1,500. Those include large scale mines that operate in the state and the development projects that we hope to see operating all the way across the board to those smaller in operation footprint, placer mining, family run operations, and then the business contracting vendor sector that supports the work that we do in the industry.
Deantha, I was going to ask you how things are going this year. It's been a tough year for all of us. With COVID-19, but it strikes me that the mining industry has done better than most industries in the state in handling the problems, but also, just profitably and economically, the industry's doing okay. The producing mines, anyway.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, it's an unfortunate situation that many of us find ourselves in as Alaskans, as Americans, but the mining industry was a bright spot among a very depressed economy last year. As the pandemic set in for Alaska, we, like other industries, worked to do everything that we had to do to protect our workers and our communities that we operate in, to get that critical infrastructure designation and to get those workforce and community protection plans in place. And once we were able to secure those and everybody, including ourselves, was confident that we had a good working plan in place, we ended up looking back at, we do an economic survey every year, and looking back, we actually grew a little bit in jobs, and we had a number of increases across the board in the economic benefits that we bring to the state of Alaska. So not only did we grow from a workforce perspective, from payroll, from communities, we went from over 60 to over 90 communities in which a mining industry employee lives in Alaska. So we grew in a lot of really positive, uplifting ways that way, but also because of the COVID protection protocols that we had to put in place, we actually were able to give some business to some of those businesses that were more depressed by the decline in tourism operation. Things like having to put our workers in hotels in Juneau for that proper quarantine time before they could go out to the mine site, and using more modes of transportation to have social distancing among shift workers and that kind of thing. So we really are proud. And I know that a lot of us are in dire positions, and we certainly stand by our partner industries in all of the impacts that have devastated them. But we're very proud to have been that bright spot and to bolster Alaska's economy at a time it needs it most.
Deantha, I think I know the answer to this, but what is the employment in the mining industry these days? I remember it being around 3,000.
Yeah, I'm proud to tell you that you're wrong and it's higher. So in 2020, this time of year, we produce a report that looks at the end of 2020. So at the end of 2020, we had about 4,700 direct mining employees. So that means someone that actually works within a mine operation. But all the indirect jobs that are attributed to the mining industry and those jobs that are there because a mining job exists is just under 10,000.
Boy, 4,700, I was way off on that. I remember that number from 2 or 3 years ago from one of Neil Fried's periodic workforce discussions. But what strikes me about that is the petroleum industry is in a tough position this year, but their workforce, the mining industry now has over half as many workers as oil has, which is probably an amazing development. Sad to say, because oil should be higher. Deantha, we haven't. I mean, there's still a pretty vibrant placer mining industry. We haven't heard much about placer miners, family-run small mines recently.
Yeah. I think it's an understatement to say those folks tend to keep a low profile. These are the kind of the people that really like to be operating in a remote mine in a remote part of Alaska. But we have, I think you would be surprised. We actually have about 170 active placer mining operations around the state. So while there are lots of other claims held and maybe operations that didn't go out into the field in 2020, last year we had 170 that did. That's a big amount across the state. Those are very concentrated in the eastern interior area, up near Nome, in the Fairbanks area, and elsewhere. And nearly half of these are family-run operations, longtime Alaskans. Really is a great industry, and really proud to support them, or to represent them. Excuse me.
Well, one of the oil prices being down last year was it's not something Alaskans were happy about, but on the other hand, it helped businesses like mining that use a lot of fuel, so their costs are down.
Right, that's right. There's always the benefit, even though as Alaskans we take a hit when oil is down. It certainly does help us on fuel purchases and that kind of thing. So a double-edged sword, but a benefit, a silver lining, if you will.
Deantha, what's out there in the future? Would you see a couple of what's coming down the pike that's good news and maybe something you're concerned about?
I think I can wrap up this answer in that it's good news and I'm concerned about it. And that is the new federal administration. We're very concerned about its perceived, ability to make environmental permitting more difficult without just cause. But on the other hand, they're talking about how much minerals we need to accomplish their goals. And that's what we're here for. So we're going to take advantage of that opportunity, even if there's a challenge wrapped up in it.
Well, the governor speaks frequently about critical minerals and strategic minerals and our good mineral endowment of those elements. Well, thank you, Deantha. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to talking more.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.